Hello, everybody. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Juanita, can you call the roll?
Sure. Juliette Boyd.
Present.
Randy Brockway.
Here.
Rachel Morella.
Here.
Michael O'Brien.
Present.
Arthur Perry.
Present.
Rich Regan.
Present.
Mary Rose Mangia.
Present. I'd like to open the floor to public comments. We have one person who has signed up, Mike Wiskowski. Can Mike come forward and step up to the microphone, please?
Good evening. Hopefully y'all can hear me. My name is Mike Wichkowski. I'm a Brookfield resident, and I'm here just basically to voice my opinion regarding the emails that I've received regarding changing the before and after care program. I have 2 boys in the program. I don't know if there's any other parents here that have any kids in the program.
I do.
Okay.
Right here.
Okay. When I started seeing the emails that there was going to be consideration to change the program, I had concerns, and my wife and I discussed these concerns. I have one son that's been in the program for over 6 years, and I have another son that's been in the program for 2 years. And I must say, before the most current staff, the initial couple years were kind of rough, and there was some changes of counselors, and once those changes occurred, we've had some stability and some success, in my opinion. And I would hate to see the kids change programs and to be introduced to change. I mean, everybody hates change. Right now, the counselors know my kids, and they're used to the program, and they know how to deal with the kids, for lack of a better term. Because I have 2 boys, you can imagine, they're kind of rambunctious and they can get in trouble. During the first years, my sons were at like my oldest son was at 2 strikes. And at 3 strikes, you start having issues, and you have to start taking time off from work and such. And I must say, in the past 2 or 3 years, my kids have not had a problem. And if there is a problem, the counselors or Stephanie will give us a call, and we'll figure out a solution on how to move forward and make everything right. And I'm also speaking because last summer, my kids were in the Riverside summer camp program, and that was a 12-week program. Because my wife and I both work, and we're always trying to figure out best ways so our kids could have fun and have a safe environment. And in a 12-week program, my older son had 2 strikes in that program too. So my fear is that if we change the program, my kids will have to learn all new counselors, all new rules, and I don't know if it would be to the benefit of my kids, because the current program seems to work. So I'm not really sure what the motivation is to change a program that over the past few years has been very stable and I think successful, at least for my children. And that's basically all I have to say. I'm very happy with the program. Whenever I have questions, I could always get answers the same day, usually in timely fashion via either email, text, or phone call. And I don't see a reason to change the program, considering that my kids have been in both programs. They've been with the PATH program, and they've been with the Riverside Park District program. And basically, my wife and I our choice would be to keep the existing program as is, because we find it to meet our needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. All right. Bhavna, you going to update us on the FOIA request for the month?
Sure, we received 1 FOIA request from Ms. Katie Drews of the Better Government Association. She requested the total amount of TRS credible earnings for the superintendent of the 13-14 school year, retirement fund for TRS for the 13-14 school year, and also the TRS health insurance contribution. So the request
Should I give you another public chance? Am I going to be allowed to speak? I'm sorry for coming in late. Is that the last one?
Yeah, we usually have a sign-up sheet.
So is that the last opportunity to speak?
I think you should let them speak.
What is the topic you would like? What is
I'd
the?
like to follow up on what Mike said.
All right, well, please.
I'm sorry for disrupting. I know I came in a little late.
Should we let Bhavna finish?
No, please. I mean, I'll wait. I just didn't know if there was going to be another opportunity to be heard.
What I'd like you to do is speak, and then we'll go back to Bob.
Well, I'm pretty much done. I mean, I'm done.
Didn't know who to ask, that's all.
Okay.
All right, please come forward.
How are you? My name is Brian Sardum. I have 2 children in the YMCA aftercare. Please.
Hi, my name is Maria Smith, and I also have 2 children in the aftercare. I've been with the YMCA before and after care for 6 years as well. My son, I'm a single mother of 3. My son started when he was in 3rd grade, he's in high school now. And I have my daughter and my youngest son who also have taken part. And not only is it a successful program, they help the children out with their homework. Like I said, I'm a single mother of 3, and sometimes financially it's a bit rough, but they have scholarships and they're very helpful. Without their scholarships and their assistance, there wouldn't be a way for me to afford for my kids to be taken care of before and after care, after school.
All righty, can you both give me your names, please?
Sure, my name is Maria Smith. I'm sorry, I didn't know we were supposed to sign in either. I'm sorry, I apologize.
And do you live in,
I live in Riverside, and my son goes to Blythe Park.
okay. And then the other gentleman, his name is,
Sir, I don't,
Hi, my name is Brian Serta.
and you live in,
I live on Rockefeller. My kids go to Hollywood.
okay, and how do you spell your last name?
CERDA.
All right, thank you. All right,
You know, there was a lot of things I didn't know. So I had to pull the director of the YMCA up, go, wait, what's going on? What's happening? And the first thing my question was, are you offering something that's gonna be free? Or am I still gonna be paying for it? She informed me that I'm still gonna be paying for it, it's gonna be the same. If the consumer is not dissatisfied with the product, why change it? That goes with the old saying of, it's not broken, why repair it? Why fix it? I'm not complaining about the program at all. And I walked right in and I started asking questions. I'm not afraid. I'd be the first one to start complaining if I was dissatisfied. I've already had 3 kids in this program. Why change it? I'm an educator. My wife's an educator. My kids come home with their homework done correctly. We're checking. They're fed. They're playing. And this young lady right here, Sonia, I'll ask her right away, hey, why are they in here? Why aren't they outside? Why not? And she's very, oh, we did this, we did that. Very involved. So I don't understand if this is a money thing, that I do understand. I understand money completely. But if it's something that someone's complaining, I haven't heard about it, I haven't read about it in the newspaper, so I don't understand why we would change something. These young people are doing a fine job. They have, wait, I'm going to mess up the quote. They have a professional role model, that's what it is, professional role model on the back of their shirts. Man, well, how inspiring is that? So who is this benefiting? And who are the people coming in? You have to allow the consumer to know, give me choices. Present here, who are you bringing in? I can't just be giving my children to anybody. That's not fair, that's not right. Just because you're endorsing it, well, we already have one product. What's the second product? Give me an option to choose one of each. Just don't replace one for the old if there's no need to. And I know this young lady wants to speak right now. She's one who is speaking, who works in there.
Hello everyone, my name is Sonia. I'm currently working at Hollywood Elementary School. I'm a site lead there. The kids enjoy our program. We start off with our daily routine, which is homework time from 3 to 4. From 4 to 5, we do activities. Our kids love our program. Sometimes they even cry because they don't want to leave our program. So that makes me upset that you guys want to bring in another program to the Y, and then why well, like Mr. Serda said, why change the program when their kids are loving the PAV YMCA? I think I would be really upset for the kids, for the parents. The parents all know us. And of course, this is Desi. She's one of my co-workers.
You know, I'm going to have to, because of our sign-up rules, I'm going to have to cut off public comment.
Well, don't we have a presentation from,
We do,
on
we
the
do.
agenda from the
From the
program?
Y, the PAV will
So-
be speaking
I
earlier.
just want to understand.
Or later, I'm sorry, they will be speaking later shortly, and maybe we could hear from them and give us their presentation and their alternatives. But I would like to move on, because I'm not even sure how many people.
We signed in, somebody pulled the page before we got up to you guys.
All right,
All right, we'll take that.
Thank you.
all right, what was your name again? Sonia?
Sonia Ramos,
How do you spell your last name?
Ramos.
All righty, all right, thank you.
We'll be quick.
And you are Nadine and Brian
And Brian
Comerford?
Comerford, yes. We have a 13-year-old who's been, we moved here about going on 3 years. And he's been at the Y since the start, and they've been great. We have 0 complaints. He has a mild form of autism, and the counselors have been great with him. He loves going there. Our concern also is during school out days, this new program, when the school calls us at 9 o'clock at night to say, there's no school tomorrow because it's too cold. Are they going to be open for them? What about during the summertime, the program? But basically, the bottom line is we have no complaints and we like sending him to the one he likes going.
I mean, it's a difficult concept when you go and you move to a state, to a community that you don't have any family in, you don't have any support around you. And it's difficult at any time for a child, certainly a child at the time who was 10 years old, to go and assimilate to a new community, not knowing anybody, and also having autism, which is going to make it more difficult for that child to be able to interact and make friends with other kids. And thankfully, the school's been wonderful in terms of accepting my son and, you know, accepting him into activities and integrating him with other kids. But one of the things that has really helped him in being able to go and assimilate into the community has been what the Y has done. They've been very good with him. They get him engaged with other kids. He's done very, very well in both before care and after care. He has a very good relationship with the counselors. It's something where he feels very, very comfortable going and walking in. And for somebody that has the difficulties that my son does, achieving that level of comfort isn't always the easiest thing in the world. And I can't speak for every other parent out here, but I can say that my experience and my son's experience through this program has been very, very good. I have a number of the same concerns that my wife does in terms of, you know, if there is a day where school gets canceled, what do? We both work. My wife and I both work, 12 or more hours a day. It's not something where we can easily go and, cancel what we're doing at work. We can't really work remotely in the jobs that we work in. So, I'm also somebody that is not necessarily looking at change for change's sake. I think if you have a program that's working, we should continue having that program in place. So I think that there should be some more consideration given to that.
All right.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, which district, which aftercare does your child attend?
He goes to the one here at Central.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Maria Smith.
Yes.
Oh, you've already spoken?
Yes.
Okay. Yep, yes, you did. And Mary Lang Judy.
Hi, I'm not speaking about Pathwire or after school care, I'm changing the topic entirely. My name is Mary Lang Judy, I live at 270 Northwood Road, and I'm also one of the founding members of RAIN, the Riverside Area Inclusion Network. I just wanted to let the community know, and most specifically the board members and the candidates that are here, we really want to personally invite all of you to attend the resource fair that's being held on Saturday morning at the Town Hall, Riverside Town Hall, from 9:30 to 12:30. We've got a host of speakers and vendors essentially coming to present on various topics that will interest parents of all kinds of kids. Whether your kid is gifted or has special needs or is the great athlete that falls right in between or what have you, there's something there for everybody, there's something to be learned. And we'd really love it if anyone that can possibly attends. We're waiting to see all of you. Thanks.
All right. Thank you very much. Bhavna, if you don't mind, I'm going to ask you to kind of kick off our public meeting again with just the brief comments on the FOIA request.
So the FOIA request is in your packet that I described earlier, and then also the response, the respective documents.
Okay. Right, I think, Rich, I'm going to recognize you for an announcement at this time. Do you have one to make?
Oh, sure. Relative to collective bargaining, we have our second meeting next week. Unfortunately, there was a long delay between these meetings. We've put out a whole bunch of dates, and I know that REC has put out a whole bunch of dates as well, but due to circumstances both beyond our control and the REC's control, unfortunately, that was delayed. But we're still committed to a very open and committed and collaborative process here, as I know REC is as well.
Thank you. Next up, we have a presentation from the floor from Kevin Klein, the Associate Director, or Associate Executive Director of the PAV YMCA. Kevin, thank you for coming and with your presentation.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you to the members of the school board for allowing me to speak to you tonight. I understand that the school board is in the process of evaluating alternative programs for the after-school care for the school year 2015-16. My goal tonight is just to represent the current program that we have and then answer any questions that you may have about our program. But first, I would like to acknowledge really how wonderful it is that we have organizations like the Riverside Rec Department and the YMCA that clearly care so deeply about the children in the district and the welfare of the families. And I think that's a real testament to the strength of the community, and I think it should be acknowledged. So I think it's really wonderful that you have organizations that feel this so strongly about the children. The Y has been providing child care in the community for 20 years, and specifically in the Riverside School District over the past 6 years. Currently, we're serving over 150 students in 4 program sites. It's the goal of the program to enrich the lives of the students through learning and play in a safe environment, and I think we do that very well. And I'd just like to share with you maybe a few examples of how we demonstrate that, those goals, how we demonstrate that through our kind of daily activities. And we understand the importance of providing structure to enrich the lives of our students that are in our care. Our program is designed to meet a variety of needs from both students and parents. Our staff is key in this, and all our staff go through a battery of trainings. We have CPR, first aid, AED. They go through a child abuse prevention through our Redwoods Insurance Company, appropriate touch, social media and technology, sexual harassment prevention, bloodborne pathogens, playground safety, and then our YMCA before and after care training. So the staff that we have in place, we're very prideful in what we invest in them, and we see that return in the interactions they have with the families and the children of the district. Secondly, we strive to provide academic support that really strengthens the structure that they receive during the school year, during the school day. We do this by offering activities such as our homework help. And really this program is based on the needs of the parents and what they feel is appropriate for their child. A lot of times, one size necessarily doesn't fit all. Some parents prefer to have their homework done and completed and brought home so the child can participate in family activities at home. Some parents want the homework to be that family activity at home. And so what the Y does is tries to provide kind of alternative to the direct homework that they're bringing home, provide activities that they can support kind of the lessons that they learn during the day. We don't want to take away the opportunity for parents and children to work together at home to complete the homework. But we would like to support that if that is their goal as well. Our Kids Lit program, it's an opportunity for regular storytelling. So if this was an example as an activity that we would do, I would start a story and then it would go around the room and we'd all build on that story. When we get to the conclusion of the story, there's a project to illustrate that. So this really touches on creativity, innovation, working together to create a story, to illustrate it, to bring it to life. And what's really special about this is it's not age specific. So we have kids of different ages all working together to create this story and this really great presentation, and they can take ownership over that. So again, that's just one example of an activity that we do to support kind of the innovative spirit that they learn throughout the school day. We focus on STEM activities. For instance, we do Rube Goldberg projects. And then one specifically that we have on video is there's a bell and a marble, and they need to get the marble through a series of events. They need to get this marble to ring this bell. And so it was really interesting and kind of inspiring to see them using their creativity and their critical thinking to say, okay, how do we get from A to Z, and what are all the factors that we need to consider to do this? And you can just see as they're executing this project, you can really see the time that it took for them and kind of the creative path that they took to get to that. And that's something, again, is just an example of kind of the activities that we encourage with our students in our aftercare program.
Are you open to comments, questions from people who
No.
are buying? I just want to know.
No.
Because like, who is running these after-school activities?
Sir, I chair the meeting, and we do not typically have people from the audience.
This is a non-typical meeting with a program that's being replaced. I'm just curious.
We aren't having a voting, any voting on
Is
this.
anyone there curious of who's going to be running this program?
Please.
We should let him finish his
Yeah.
presentation
Yeah.
here.
We're gonna find out.
Yep.
And again, we aim to enrich the lessons that they took during the school day, not only academically, but physically and socially. We follow closely to the HEPA standards of healthy eating and physical activity. And again, in the activities that we do with dramatic and creative play, we're really creating an atmosphere of collaboration within a range of students with different talents, different age groups, and they're all working together to finish a project. And we feel like that, again, not only has the academic support, but really socially that they're all working together, and I think that's really special. Additionally, we aim for the program to be accessible by offering reasonable flexibility when it comes to registration. We understand and can sympathize with how complicated some parent schedules may be after work. And to support that, we provide a 2, 3, 4, or 5-day option when it comes to registration. So they really have the flexibility to sign up for a program that really is specific to their needs. And we're always making concessions on a case-by-case basis for day of or day before registration. So again, we really try to put ourselves in the parent's shoes and say, how can we reasonably be accommodating to a schedule of a parent? And that's something that, again, without impacting negatively the safety and the quality of the program, if we can bring a child in the day before or day of, that's something that we really strive to do. The Y also has really a very unique ability, as they mentioned, to provide financial assistance. We do not turn people away for the inability to not pay. And by the end of this school year, the Y will have subsidized $23,962 in enrollment costs. 1 in 9 children in the program receive some type of subsidy from our scholarship program. 1 in 2 families that qualify receive 75 to 100% reduction in their costs. So 1 in 2, I want to repeat that, 1 in 2 people that qualify for our scholarship program receive 75 to 100% reduction in their costs. And I think that's really important, that if the school district decides to go in another direction, we just want to make sure that those parents have access to childcare next year, and we feel like our scholarship program really supports that accessibility to the program. Finally, by the end of the school year, the Y will have provided 253 hours of additional care at the YMCA during holiday break camps, schools out days, and any emergency power outage snow days that we have. And hopefully we don't have any more of those this year, no more snow. So, but it's really, the Y has the facility to support that type of childcare, not necessarily the aftercare right after school, But schools out days, holiday break camps, they know that they can come to the Y. We have pool, climbing wall, gym, we have rooms to house these activities. And we've been doing that for 6 years, so. In closing, I would just like to ask the board to take time and consider the current program and the points that I've discussed tonight. And hopefully that will factor into the decision that you guys must make, so. So thank you for listening to me and hearing me out. If there's any questions, I'd be love to answer them.
Thank you.
Kevin, do you provide these services for any other school district other than Riverside?
Yeah.
Are we your main, yes?
We have much the same, a partnership with the School District 100, and we provide similar services in their schools as well.
And that's a Berwyn?
Berwyn, yeah.
Berwyn School District?
And these activities, do you sign up for them ahead of time? Are they for elementary school, junior high? See, I have used the after-school care and I don't recall the particular activities being offered. Is it something you sign up for, or is it something that's just pre-planned?
No, it's something that we plan in our activities, and it's usually tied into like they'll have a weekly, monthly plan of activities that they wanna do during that time, and so it's not necessarily a separate program that you need to sign up for. It's just activities that we stress that we feel will, again, support the.
And can you repeat, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Can you repeat that number again? You said you offer, what, 23,500 in financial assistance?
By the end of the school year.
Okay, and how many kids are taking advantage of that?
Currently now it's 17 of the kids in the program.
How are you funding that tuition assistance?
That's through the generosity of our members in the community, the seven service communities that we serve. So we do events, we do just a series of fundraising activities that staff donate portions of their paycheck to this campaign, and it's really out of the goodness of people's heart, and they believe in the mission and the why of the Y, and so it's something that we really pride ourselves on, and that we're able to give that back. 100% of the funds that we raise for our financial assistance is given back to the families in the communities that we serve.
Kevin, are there any government subsidies at all for this program that you know of? For the tuition, for the assistance?
Oh, no. Not for our financial assistance.
Okay.
So Kevin, we had some speakers earlier comment about when school is canceled for weather and so forth. Can you address that? How does your program allow for that? Or do you provide services on a short notice like that?
Yes, and I can just give the credit to our child care director, Stephanie Robinson, who basically is always prepared to, at the drop of a hat, sometimes 8, 9 o'clock at night, we got to turn something around for 6 o'clock in the morning. And we have kind of pre-planned activities, and then we'd open our doors, and people who are able to take advantage of that, we allow that. So it's just the design of the program, and it's the execution by Stephanie.
And is there a charge for that on a date? How does that service get paid for?
Yeah, that's a participant fee, so it's not included in the cost of the aftercare. That's a separate fee that we charge as a like a schools out day charge, because not all students that are enrolled in the aftercare will take part in a schools out day.
And do you also have a spring break program and other holidays? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so we have essentially we have 3 holiday camps throughout the school year. We have one for Thanksgiving week, over the holiday break, and the New Year's we have a camp, and then we also do the spring break camp. So that's more of like a camp structure, since they're all day. Just the activities that we have planned out are more of kind of a camp-based structure of programming.
I see. Thank you.
Brian Serta, did your question get asked and answered?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Great. Thank you, Kevin,
Thank
for
you.
coming and
Thank you.
and for all of your the work you've done on behalf of the Y and serving our district for, what did you say, 6 years?
6 years, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, hi Don, you're going to talk to us about the technology pilot.
Good evening. I'm Don Tafato, Director of Innovation and Instructional Technology. I'm here to give an update regarding the district's one-to-one program. I'm not going to be up here alone. Steve Elgin, who I think you're all familiar with. Steve appears regularly at board meetings. He helped us with the program. He was so kind as to take on a new device and work with students with that new device and to give us some feedback. Thank you, Steve. So the topics we're going to cover, a very short program overview, program goals, benefits, one-to-one. We did a one-to-one survey with students, we had a one-to-one survey with some area districts, get some feedback on who's doing what, some information on the device pilots, some feedback on the Chromebook pilot, and some device cost comparison, and then next steps. Let me know if I'm talking too fast. So a very brief one-to-one program overview. Our one-to-one program is in grades 5 through 8. Currently, the students in grades 5 through 8 have either a MacBook or a MacBook Air. The replacement cycle traditionally on those devices is every 4 years. This year, we did put a hold on that replacement cycle, and we actually cycled devices from last year's 8th graders back to the 5th grade as we evaluate the program. So as far as program goals, this is not historically program goals, but these are goals that I think moving forward would be appropriate and would be SMART goals in that they're specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely, and focusing on, number one, ensuring that students meet 21st century skills standards as indicated by the ISTE standards, which is the International Society for Technology and Education. And there are 6 main areas that are listed that ISTE focuses on. Creativity and innovation, communication and collaboration, research and information fluency, critical thinking, problem solving and decision making, digital citizenship, and technology operations and concepts. And we seem to have a rainbow effect going on right now. And then also to increase student achievement, or engagement rather, and integrate technology to promote transformational teaching and learning. And that would be really through the implementation of the SAMR model and teaching above the line, that I'm going to get into more what that acronym is. So the SAMR model and teaching above the line. SAMR kind of starts with kind of levels of integration by staff, starting with substitution, evolving to augmentation, and then modification, and then redefinition. The objective being for staff to teach above the line, and when they're incorporating technology, be working in that modification and redefinition range. So I have a video that explains SAMR further.
Okay, we all know that using technology in school can help students learn. But how can our teachers reflect on how effectively they're using technology?
Well, that's what this model is for, the SAMR model. It's kind of like the Bloom's taxonomy for educators.
It was created by this guy, Dr. Ruben Fuentedora, who believes that using technology allows us to think differently and perform new tasks.
After all, if we have today's technology, then why teach like we did 20 years ago?
There's 4 different levels and 2 different sections in SAMR.
Let's take a look at the first level, substitution.
This is where the technology used acts as a direct substitute. Let's take the task of persuasive essay writing. I could write an essay by hand, or I could type an essay using the basic features of a word processing program.
The task is the same, and there's no functional change. The technology is being used as a substitute.
Lots of teachers start out at this level, but don't worry. Because substitution is not a bad thing,
even the best teachers visit this level from time to time.
The next level is called augmentation. This is where the task is still the same, but the tech allows for some sort of functional improvement. So instead of writing our persuasive essay on paper, we could use a program like Google Docs.
With this software, the task is still the same, but the unique features of a collaborative document provide some functional improvement.
In both these levels, the technology is used to simply enhance a lesson. This technology may make tasks more efficient, but it's not likely to make a big difference in future outcomes. Most learning takes place above the line, and it starts with modification.
Here, the technology is used to provide a significant task redesign.
So instead of simply writing an essay, a student could publish a WordPress blog using text, embedded videos, pictures, and other web links to convey their argument. The audience is no longer just the teacher either.
It's the entire world.
People from anywhere with an internet connection could review or comment on their writing, allowing for deeper analysis.
The final level and the ultimate goal of technology integration is redefinition.
Here, the technology allows for the creation of new tasks that were previously inconceivable. Instead of writing that essay, students could now create and publish a digital storytelling project to argue their writing with multimedia.
Plus, just like the blog, through publishing this movie to the world, it allows for other people to comment and analyze their message.
So the heart of the assignment is still the same, but the technology allows them to engage in a new, more involved task that's otherwise not possible.
At these levels, learning is transformed through the use of technology. When we are more engaged and involved, significant improvements in learning are more likely to take place.
Different people have different ideas about SAMR. Some think that SAMR is like a ladder that you climb. You start at substitution and work your way up to redefinition.
Others think each level is like a swimming pool that you swim in or visit from time to time throughout the school year, and that's okay.
Because no matter the interpretation, the real power of the framework is that it promotes reflective teaching in the classroom. What you do, why you do it, and how it helps learning.
By thinking about the different levels, teachers can focus on designing digital learning experiences that will help improve student outcomes.
See, the thing about SAMR is this. It's not the type of tech tool that defines the level. It's how the individual teacher uses it in their lesson.
So whether you're substituting or redefining learning,
remember the ultimate outcome for integrating technology should be simple. Maximizing student success. Want more information on SAMR? Check out these links.
Okay, so that's I think a 3.5-minute overview of SAMR. So we have this year, some of the professional development that we've done has been built around the SAMR model. And after one of the PD sessions, Apple was very kind to provide us with a survey to survey staff on SAMR and how they incorporate technology into the classroom. Now, the response was not great, so I'm not trying to paint a picture of staff's current level of integration of technology, just to give you an overview that there are tools and what the initial feedback based on the responses. We had 13 responses to the survey. On the left-hand side is a response from K-5, and on the right-hand side is a response from the middle school. Again, only 13 responses between them, so not enough to be making, drawing conclusions and such. But both the green and the blue are in that substitution and then the modification and augmentation area. So it's those that did respond are teaching below the line, But again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. They're integrating the technology, and it's how they're using it. But we want to try to extend them above the line over time. And there are tools out there that allows us to measure that. As far as benefits of a one-to-one program, a one-to-one program can provide flexibility, customization, and personalization, which can enhance student motivation, time on task, performance, efficiency, and effectiveness. It allows for the creation of flexible spaces in which students choose when and where they learn, supporting a flipped learning environment model. Offers powerful collaborative and in-class possibilities, improves interaction by allowing the easy exchange of information among students and with teachers. Students with advanced skills are able to expand their skills and knowledge. Students with learning differences are better able to keep pace with classmates because they can utilize technology to meet their individual learning needs. And it aligns with today's mobile society where anytime, anywhere learning can be a reality. We did do a survey of just 64 districts, and first question was, do you have a one-to-one program going on? And of the 64 districts surveyed, 25 districts had a one-to-one program. Of those 25, well, what was the device that you had, that you're utilizing for the one-to-one program? Majority was using a Chromebook or Chrome operating system, and then the iPad, which is iOS is the operating system. 2 were using Windows, and 3 were using the Macintosh OS X, which is with the MacBook operating system. The pilots that we did, we have 2 pilots running right now.
Doc,
Folksy?
I just have
Sure.
a question about the surveys. Did you do the survey? Who did the survey?
I believe the survey, David coordinated with some area districts.
Okay, so it was David ran the survey?
Pardon?
So David ran the survey, you didn't run the survey?
He sent I think you can speak to the.
Yeah, I sent out to all the business officials
Okay.
that I could think of.
Okay.
And actually I used a blast that was for a different purpose, that had as many as I could obtain. And then I received responses from, I'm guessing, around 50%, maybe a little bit 50% of this email blast.
Okay.
Then I categorized them and broke it out into, I broke out the results.
Okay, and what did you ask them in your, whatever your request was? If they have a one-to-one program and what they use?
Yeah, I have to recall this, it's been a couple months since I did this, okay, so.
Sorry.
We asked, what was the device you were currently, well, do you consider yourself a one-to-one district? Okay, there were pie chart.
Yeah.
Okay, so, do you consider yourself a one-to-one district at all? And then, if you do, what is your primary, and some school districts had different one-to-one devices for junior high as compared with an elementary. But I'd say the majority of them had one device selected. We asked, what is your level of satisfaction? Do you have plans to change your one-to-one device in the immediate future? How many years have you been a one-to-one user? That kind of thing.
Thank you.
Can I just add to this?
Yeah.
Some of the difference in the data on the second graph is the question that asked was device specific, but the graphic isn't necessarily device specific. For example, 13 of those school districts were using some sort of Chromebook. There are different companies that make Chromebooks, but that was their platform. When you look at the Windows, those are 2 different devices. One was a Surface. I don't remember the other one. So it's kind of representing more of the operating system than it is in device specific.
The Chrome devices are similar to Windows devices in that you have multiple manufacturers that are using the operating system on their device. Apple, basically there's only one manufacturer with iOS devices and the OS X devices.
Thank you.
Right. I just have one question with regard to the survey, David and Don. Did you ask whether there were any fees associated with the one-to-one program? In other words, how are the laptops financed? Was that a question? Okay, all right, thank you.
So the device pilots we focused on have been the Chromebooks and the iPads. The Chromebooks are in grade 5 in Steve Elginus's classroom. Just selected for the purpose of the pilot, a Dell Chromebook. It does have a Google management license on it, which allows it to be centrally managed. That leverages the power of the operating system. I just got a classroom set, and those were issued in late January. iPads, also in grade 5. We're managing those devices through the Cisco Meraki device management platform. That is a free platform currently. We also got a classroom set. Those went out in late February, and that pilot is still in progress between it going out in late February and then with Park. We'll have additional data to follow on that in an upcoming meeting. Steve Elginus is here to talk a little bit about, give his feedback on the pilot and with the Chromebooks. Scroll down.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. Since I've been teaching here at Central, I've always embraced technology. For the last few years, I've been using the Mac because that's what's been available, and I've always considered myself a Mac guy. So when they asked me to do the Chromebook, I pretty much came with an open mind because I just, through the pipeline, I heard that Chromebooks aren't the way to go, Macs are better. But what I tried to do for the pilot, I tried to duplicate everything I do with the Mac to see what could actually function on the Chromebook. And I think Donna said this before, I found that majority of the things that I do with the Mac could be duplicated on the Chromebook. Most of the things are on the web, it's producing quality videos, it's adding, adding discussions or using blogs, using Edmodo or classroom websites. Ideally, I just try to use the technology to allow my students to publish, to share, to collaborate. And fortunately, I was able to do that both on the Mac and the Chromebook. They both allow me to publish the content, they create links. Multimedia is a big thing for me. I think the kids really learn best when they're creating videos, they're creating songs, they're doing podcasts, getting beyond just the pure word publishing. Some of the things I did see with the Chromebook, they boot up really quick, which is nice. The kids are just happy to be able to log on pretty quickly with the Chromebooks. The battery power lasts a lot longer. With the Macs, I found that a lot of times the battery would drain, especially if they didn't charge. With the Chromebook, it seems like they charged a lot quicker and lasted longer. The actual lockers that the Chromebooks were connected to, the power cords were really, really functional. With the Macs, a lot of times the power cords would, become dislodged and then they wouldn't have a charged laptop. One of the highlights has been using Google Classroom. So working with Don, working with Bob Petito, I really tried to embrace Google Classroom because I've been using Edmodo for years, which really creates a classroom environment where we could have discussions, we could share links, we could share websites, kids could publish their work. Google Classroom did a majority of what Edmodo did as well, so that was a great feature. I was able to create classroom assignments, projects. With the classroom assignment, I could create a template for the students to use where I basically created the first document and then they were able to alter it and then turn it back in, and then I could go ahead and grade that for them. In the class, I also created group documents and forms using Google Docs. So Chromebook really is linked with Google with some nice features there.
I'm curious about that though. It says at the end that the Edmodo and Google Classroom are accessible from either device.
Correct,
so
correct.
What's the real, killer, feature that the Chromebook has with respect to Google Classroom, I guess?
Well, Google, like I said, both, they work on both. So as far as functionality goes, my point being that the Chromebook and the Mac both do the same.
Mm-hmm.
I liken it to looking for a car, try to see what's the best features I could get for the money.
Yeah.
I'm really not trying to plug Chromebook, I'm just trying to say that
Okay.
I embrace it as, let's assume this is what I'm getting, what am I gonna like about it?
Okay, I wasn't
and then
sure.
I
Maybe
will-
there was some
but I
real
did-
cool
that's why I wanted
push
that.
button and boom, all of a sudden.
I thought it was
there.
important to add that at the end, that they both function on the Chromebook and the MacBook as well. Google Classroom is very similar to Edmodo though. You create your class, you add students, you could create them as a certain type of user, if they read only, they could share. They both function the same way. And then the limits of the Chromebook. So I really try to be vocal with my students, saying, okay, let's assume that this is what you're gonna get, what do you like about it, what don't you like about it? Now, with the Mac, obviously, they like the fact that they could have multiple desktops, they could add lots of pictures, they could hide a lot of things from their teachers, so those are all great features for a student. Multiple desktops, meaning they could swipe it at a moment's notice, so they see me coming before you know it, oh, I'm working on your assignment. Well, 2 desktops over, they're doing something else, but that doesn't happen in my class, of course. Then also, I did ask, they did like with the Chromebooks that they were able to download their own apps. With a Macintosh, they have to have administrator privileges to download apps, so there are Google Apps for Education. At the ICE conference, I did find a great feature with the Google Chrome where if I have multiple tabs, I could then share, like, let's say I have a list of 10 sites I want my students to go to. I could compile all those websites into one tab and then share that with my students, so that was a nice feature. Where with the Mac, I have to actually create like a web page or, create each link separately. So those are some of the other features. Drawbacks I found mostly because I do use a lot of multimedia tasks. The sound quality and the video quality was not as good as the Macs. The responsiveness of the graphics was really pretty quick with the Mac. It was a little bit more sluggish. I tried to, one of the projects I do, I have the kids create a Latin America movie where they actually go back in time and they visit either the Inca, the Aztec, or the Mayans. And then they use iMovie to create them using green screen, using pictures, using, if you ever come to my class, you'll see a bunch of kids in the hallway filming scenes and saying, quiet on the set, action. And so all this comes together in a film. With iMovie, it really comes out pretty flawlessly. I've been trying to explore WeVideo, which lives on the web. So the nice thing about that is they could share the same movie. So let's say I have multiple users, they could add to that same movie over the internet, where iMovie lives on the laptops. So that was a challenge of iMovie. However, the end product usually ends up pretty more finessed. And then asking some of the other students, a lot of the students seem to complain about like monitor size and like the keyboard's a little bit smaller. But I think Don's going to speak to that being the device, not so much the Chromebook. And I think that was a benefit of the Macs. So they're better keyboard and handling and functionality. It seems like Mac really knows how to throw all the bells and whistles into it. So obviously that comes at a cost. But if you're a student, obviously you want the top feature because you're not paying for it. But at the end of the day, the Chromebooks did most of what I needed it to do. And it just seemed, the Mac seemed a little bit more personalized, and that's what some students said, going back to the multiple desktops, and they could add widgets where they could, like one kid loves ESPN, so he was able to access the ESPN widget with score updates. So. Okay. All those good educational things.
Thank you.
Mr. Reed, before you go,
Yes,
if you have to grade the Chromebook, what would you grade it?
I would, not considering cost, B+. And then the same thing with MacBook, not considering the cost, A-. But throw in the, I would say the biggest drawback to the MacBook for me as a teacher is the personal experience that the students have, being able to personally feature it. That does create somewhat of a distraction on occasion. So that's what I've found in my experience.
And actually, Steve, I'm going to ask you to stick around because we do have a student survey. There's some things that Steve might be able to speak to as well, because we did actually ask the students give their feedback via survey. On the MacBooks.
I think I spoke to the power and the cords seem to become a little more disconnected.
This was your referral.
Okay, overall, the Chromebooks can be utilized for most of the projects I design. I'm currently exploring the WeVideo to replace the iMovie. That seemed to be the one limitation I found throughout the program. And GarageBand is a multimedia, more audio than it is video. And then so far WeVideo seems useful. I just need to get a little more engrossed in that. Like I said, with the exception of the quality of the overall video, I think we'll be able to do the features I need it to do.
Okay, so we also, we did put a survey out for students. So the following, just some quick questions on, okay, and the ability to perform web searches. And you can see that they really looked at both of them, really being the one. On a web search, that's pretty, any device you're going to be able to do a web search on. Access class resources, such as Google Drive, Edmodo. Practice typing skills, create documents, create presentations, create, edit images and video. I think Steve kind of spoke to this, but still, we have a large candidate to the both. Install apps and educational tools, kind of on that fly experience in the educational app store. Share your screen. We did incorporate some share screening hardware that allowed students to project what they had on their desktop on the classroom projector. That's a functionality that you can do in any platform. It's just that we wanted to make sure we had that device in place for the pilot. Communicate with other students or teachers. Again, pretty much even across the board. Here's where I think you start seeing some of the feedback on students preferring one device over another. Faster to boot up. They've said they were about even. Steve and I talked about this because boot up time on a Chromebook is seconds. But when students leave at the end of the day, oftentimes they just close their lid as opposed to shutting down. From a cold boot, it is a faster boot up time. Lasts longer before needing a charge. Chromebooks, they do the extended battery life, and they just don't draw as much power given the reduced capabilities and functionalities of it. Easier to carry handle. I think the feedback was that the Chromebook was just lighter, a little bit easier to carry around. More durable. They did recognize the MacBook as being more durable. Felt it had a better screen. Was easier to control. With this pilot, we were, not necessarily evaluating the actual device itself, like that specific Chromebook, just really the operating system. And if this was the direction the district were to go, the next level would be, okay, we have to look at now what Chromebook, and taking into account screen size, other features as well that we'd want input from staff on as well. More reliable. Students picked the MacBook. Steve and I also talked about this. When they first started the pilot, Steve's classroom did have some wireless connectivity issues, which we resolved, and then students on those devices were able to access network as soon as they put it up, and then that issue was resolved. Allows you to work better with other members of your class, dead even on that.
I think with the reliability part too, I noticed using Google Docs, a lot of times you're at the mercy of working with others too, so somebody could either inadvertently or possibly advertently try to delete some of your work. So even though it's there as your document, if you're sharing a document with somebody, you kind of substitute some of that control in order to have, collaboration. So I think that's where some of the frustration came, where somebody goes, I filled out this document, or I filled out this research paper, and my information's not there. And sometimes you could, with the Chromebook, it's hard to tell when you might have, lost some of the data.
Thank you. I'm now just going to get into an overview of pricing. Now this is for device only, and these are based on all devices having a 1-year warranty. So with the MacBook would be on a 4-year cycle, which it currently is. The Chromebooks, really 4 years is kind of pushing it at a 4-year cycle. It's really more of a 3-year cycle type device. So you have the unit cost of those particular devices, and with the average annual cost based on the cycle, and then the estimated savings as well based on 4 year, based on the cycle of the device. So with if we were to look at a class population of 200 students, so if we have 200 fifth graders right now and 200 sixth graders, we use that as just a number for each class. The pricing at the bottom would be indicative of a purchase for 200 students. So MacBook would come in at about $210,000. Chromebook at $76,533, and iPad at $122,667, and it is based on a 4-year cost. So I'm not trying to show a 3-year cost on one and 4-year on it. It is based on that 4-year annual cost with a 1-year warranty.
You're saying that at the year 3 going into year 4, you'd buy more Chromebooks?
Exactly. So that's taking into account that first year. Now, if that was a route we were going to go, we'd have to look at, well, how does that change the way we deploy? You know, do we, you know, since students have the devices for 4 years, how are we going to incorporate that 4th year? Do we keep devices at 5th grade for a longer period of time and then have students get devices from 6th through 8th? It's just, that is an area we'd have to explore further if that's the route we wanted to go. Here's with a 3-year warranty. So with a 3-year warranty, even on the MacBooks, they don't offer a 4-year. These would be 3-year warranty prices with all devices. And then one thing that did come up with, and I wanted to point it out too, was that with the MacBook Airs, as those are coming out of, they only have 1-year warranties on them. That's what they have only traditionally been purchased, the MacBooks, with a 1-year warranty. What we're noticing is that replacement parts are much more expensive because they're using, for instance, in the Pro versus the Air, they use a solid state drive as opposed to a traditional hard drive. And you can see our replacement drive costs will be going up. Screen costs, battery, top cases, bottom cases, and those are all the main common repairs to those devices. I have inquired about the Dells that we have and similar pricing. I just did not get that information back in time for this, but I'll have that information. Obviously, with the cost of the device only being, you know, on a 3-year or on a 1-year warranty, if that was the route, the device only costs, you know, $270. If there's a major repair, at that point it's just a replacement versus a repair.
Hey Doug, did we just mention how we talked about it? We would probably still want a classroom set of Macs for the 5th grade.
Yeah, I mean, I think if Chromebooks was the route that the district decided to go, yeah, I think it's a matter of the right tool for the right project. I think the district, a model for the district would be a balance between, you know, whether it's Chromebooks as a primary device, kind of taking into account the 80-20 rule. I mean that we spend 20%, we spend 80% of the time using 20% of the functionality of the device, and does the device hit that 80%? And perhaps a Chromebook does that, but then what about that 20%? We want to make sure we have resources where students can still do those types of projects that maybe they can't do on a Chromebook. Does it mean they need to have that device all the time, or do they just need access to it? You know, more and more, a lot of the applications that are available on, you know, Steve references GarageBand, and what's your other high use, iMovie. Those are also available on the iPad. So students can also be using that. So that also provides a potential of another tool that they can use, still have access and do that level of creation when they need to do it, as opposed to it necessarily being a full-time device. But we also want to look at the iPad and get some feedback on, based on how you're using technology in the classroom, does the iPad meet your needs? Not only what the Chromebook could do, but then also potentially what the Mac OS can do as well.
John, I had a question. I think it's more for Brian. You've talked about the fact that you're looking at some educational platforms for next year, things that you were going to recommend. Are there any specific, would they be able to be used on the Chromebook as well as on the MacBook, or is there some sort of, what are the specifications for the programs you were looking at that you like?
Yeah, just about all of them, all of the functions that the students would need to do would be accessible on both platforms. Some of the stuff that the staff would need access to would be much more beneficial for the staff to have an Apple and a MacBook. But from a student perspective, it should go as smoothly as possible as long as our connectivity is working well.
Yeah, and I think with the one-to-one program, the intent is not not to change the teacher device, because there are applications and things that the teachers will need a full-fledged device. For instance, we know that their grade book, Power School, requires a plug-in, can't run on the Chrome OS. Have been talking with Steve Jaraka regarding math programs that looking at next year and making sure that, I mean, that is also a consideration. Then if that becomes your platform, then that is part of the equation when evaluating resources. That question will always have to be asked. Is it compatible with your operating system?
Don, I hear Steve talking about one of the things the students really like is the ability to download apps. Can you help me understand how that squares with some of the privacy concerns, or not privacy, but just access and control that Dave Barsotti, you weren't here that, Dave, that he brought up
Right.
About basically a device policy, I guess.
Right, and those are restrictions that can be, I mean, we can temper those restrictions, we can turn that off, and also really leave it up to the discretion of the district, coordinating with the teachers to identify, well, which apps can they download. That way, we can push out apps very easily through that platform. We can also restrict apps very easily through the platform. You know, we recently had our park test. Park testing on a Chromebook is literally, you can roll it out in minutes. It's very simple, versus on a more traditional full-fledged computer where you don't have that granular level of management that you have on a Chromebook, or even the iPad is getting their iOS, Apple's getting a lot better with more centralized management. They recently introduced some new capabilities and tools that take into account that enterprises are trying to manage them. The Mac OS X isn't really an enterprise device, so it's difficult to manage centrally. So that has its benefits, but within the Chrome management console, we can also restrict. It really becomes what is our comfort level as a district, but to have applications available that maybe have already been vetted, and then have students easily able to access those, versus waiting for someone to come around and install something, or for an installation to occur. The timeline between, hey, this is a great resource, and students are using it, becomes much shorter.
Is there, you're talking about the time, of waiting for somebody to come around and install. Can't some of those applications be installed via network versus, on every device, or how does that work?
We don't utilize a lot of network-based applications. We have the ability to, in some cases, to push them out, so that there's maybe a silent install in the background. But as a district, as far as like a client-server application, there's none that we're really utilizing.
All right, is that a possibility in the future?
Yes, I mean, it's always a possibility, but I think technology is kind of moving away from that client server, where it's more hosted solutions, or run locally where you can. I think in the instance of the Mac OS X devices, the MacBooks, most of what people are utilizing is, I mean, there's a lot of apps that are local, whereas in Chrome kind of takes that opposite philosophy, where it's all cloud-based. So if there's latency with using an application that requires video, you're more dependent on your internet connection, as opposed to your local, processor.
Can I just add, the district we can manage the apps that the kids are using. And so we could still send them out to devices, and we could, really, what we would want to do is know the apps the kids are using. Even though it's in the Google Classroom platform, we still want to be vigilant on the apps that they're using. Most of them, I would imagine, would still come through the technology department as far as what apps are shot out to the devices. And then I haven't talked about this, so we kind of speak out loud, but then I would see it more of a gradual release model if we're, happy with how the apps are working, and we have more time to look into additional apps, as opposed to just having kids download, the app they want from Google Classroom.
Yeah, I think as a district, we should incorporate a process of vetting resources. And so that we know that, number one, that they're meeting our academic goals. And then there's set up a criteria, including not only compatibility, but also the security component, the student data privacy component, and really have almost like a grading rubric for any resource that's going to be used, and it has to pass through those different layers to say it meets the standard and the criteria of the district. And I think it's important that as we select resources, we're also identifying, well, what is that academic goal associated with it, whether it has cost or no cost. If it's going to involve students spending contact time or instructional time utilizing it, well, then there's an associated cost with it, and really making sure that we're vetting all the resources in that manner.
Now, when you talk about the fact that the Chromebooks are less durable, what are you referring to? The exterior, dropping it and breaking it, or really the internal workings of the device?
Well, that was the students' feedback, and I think that the fact that it is I think most school districts that have adopted it do look at it as a 3-year device. Apple does invest, as you can tell from the cost of it, there's a lot invested in the construction of that device. I think that we looked at one device. If the decision is made, well, Chromebooks is the route we want to go, then we have to look at, well, what Chromebooks? And that's where we can address, maybe some of the more construction-related stuff. Look at reviews regarding, feedback on durability. I know there's a new Chromebook out that looks just like an iPad or a MacBook Air. It's got, silver outside, has that. And I think to Steve's points, and that's really the important point, is what can staff do what they need to do in terms of instructionally with students on that device. And then it obviously, a Chrome device or an iPad device is going to be less expensive. Well, then what can we do with those extra dollars? Obviously, if we want to invest a portion of it in additional resources and to really beef up additionally our resources that are offered to support instructional tech, that's can also be done as well.
How about servicing both the Mac and the other? Are they equal in comparison?
Well, we haven't had to service any internally in terms of other school districts. Some school districts, well, it's been high school districts that have actually set up programs with their high school students where the students are servicing them, and they actually have a club and they actually run their own help desk for students on that. So they are serviceable. I think what you really have to look at, depending on what the repair is, at some point, it's not worth servicing. I mean, these are truly more of, they become, and I'm sure that will, even more so in time, this is going to become more of supplies than really a capital purchase. I mean, capital outlay purchase. It's I mean, they're already down to, $250 with the one you're in that ballpark. There are some that are a lot less expensive, but you are probably sacrificing some level of quality as well. But they're becoming more of that, I hate to say throwaway, but at some point, that's where kind of the technology is going. I mean, look at DVD players and VCRs that were, when they first came out, you paid $1,000 for a VCR. Now it's a $50 supply item that gets, that's more disposable.
I just have one question left, and at least hopefully only one. And this would be related to curriculum that'll be on these devices. There's the 20th Century Think Tank team, right? And they're working on integrating technology with curriculum. Am I correct about that? Where's the 20th Century Think Tank deliverable, and how does this fit in with the device you're recommending?
So right now, the deliverables have been incorporated into the curriculum listing solution by grade level.
Okay.
Some of them are still sitting there because we've had the connectivity, problems in the past, but now everything's been, working well since we've upgraded. So the curriculum piece, it's not done, but it's begun. And so those resources, those lessons that incorporate some of that level of technology, we've been teaching the lessons, we just haven't been able to extend into that level of technology, but it's there.
What do you mean, I guess, just to kind of rephrase my questions, is the 20th Century Think Tank team going to recommend specific applications or routines that should be, put on, delivered through these devices, or certain lessons with applications delivered through devices? And where are we with that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Don and I haven't talked about that level of involvement for the 21st Century Think Tank team. To be 100% honest, that team hasn't had the opportunity to meet as much this school year. So, the work that we did is still where it's at.
Okay.
But depending on the direction we take that team in, that could be a suggestion. But I think that the initial kind of review of the apps and the initial, I guess, what I wouldn't want is the kids to have to wait for the think tank team to get together in order to start the process. Like, if we go ahead and do this, I think initially it should start at the administrator level, to get a system down, get an idea of the apps that we want, let the kids use the apps, and then maybe build that into the system.
And does that, I guess the work product of the think tank team, how much does that affect the decision we'll be making on devices?
No, it's, either device would do the work. Again, it's a lot of multimedia type stuff that Steve was talking about, and he's been doing, some of it already on the Chromebooks, and it's been fine. So it's more of a connectivity piece than anything else.
Yeah, I think in terms of, we're talking about resource selection, I think that's where we definitely want to get the district's certified staff involved, whether it's by grade level, or whether it's by content area. And again, I think having that process in place by which you can evaluate, that we're saying, not just coming to us to say, we want this resource, but to have a way to actually evaluate the resource and have some goals associated with, well, how are we going to use this resource? And I always try to throw everything back to SMART goal, is what is the goal, how are we going to measure it, how are we going to show that if we're investing in it, that it's producing the results that we say it's going to. And if it's a great resource, well, let's expand use. If it's not, then let's find an alternative resource.
Yeah, I want to say that I think we've talked a lot about devices, and that's great. I'm sure you guys will figure out which one's the best, best bang for our buck, and we can go with it. But I'm glad to hear the focus on things like SAMR and SMART goals, because my concern with the program, and my daughter was in the inaugural class of the one-to-one program, has been all along that we're really tying this tool back to, curriculum, to teaching and learning, and not doing that, just using it to augment or as a replacement for, pencil and paper or something else.
Right.
Or a fun thing for kids to play around with, personalizing and desktops and widgets, which I'm sure you can have a widget on a Chromebook. So I appreciate that focus, and I'd like to see, definitely more on that.
Definitely.
And see that develop and continue.
And I think that's why tying those goals back to more curricular-based, the 21st century skills, and changing the way teachers teach, the way they utilize the technology. And it's not just the laptops. I mean, the district has invested a lot in interactive projectors. It's invested a lot in document cameras. All great resources.
And bandwidth.
Yeah, exactly.
We love.
Exactly.
Can't have enough.
All great resources, but let's make sure that we're leveraging them, where we're using the 21st century tools to change the way we teach. Because those devices have a 5-year, usually the projector's 5-6 years on them. And so want to make sure, at least by the time we get through that first purchase cycle, that that they're being used effectively by teachers.
What are we gonna do? We're gonna vote next April meeting or May, what, two things, at least for people that are here tonight, I think, the PAVY and technology, we're not taking any action on after-school care tonight. No vote will be taken. I'm under the assumption that we're gonna vote on that in the April meeting.
We could have a vote, but I know that I'm gonna make some additional suggestions for the PAVY.
I just want to say, I think parents have been here and staff of the PAV have been here a while, and that we want to make clear that no action will be taken tonight.
Yeah, I think that's good. It's not on, yeah, we do not have an action item on the agenda today. And I've also gotten some emails, actually around 6 o'clock today, having to do with the aftercare program, so I would like to read those. And we'll just see what the next couple of weeks develop on whether or not it becomes a voting item next month.
Okay, and so then now moving over to technology, what's our game plan? Don, are we gonna?
I think next steps, we're going to update you on the iPad pilot at the April 8th Finance Committee meeting. And then the timeline that I've talked with Dr. Sharma Lewis about was the 4/17 potential board action on a one-to-one device selection.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Don.
Yeah.
All right. Next up is the Board of Education. I'm asking the Board of Education for approval of the previous meeting minutes as follows. Minutes of the regular business meeting, February 17, 2015. Minutes of the closed session meeting number 1, February 17, 2015. Minutes of the closed session meeting number 2, February 17, 2015. Minutes of the special committee meeting, March 3, 2015. Minutes of the closed session meeting number 1, March 3, 2015. Minutes of the closed session meeting number 2, March 3, 2015. May I have a motion that the Board of Education accept the minutes of the previous meetings as I've just read, and that these minutes become formal district records?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Rich Regan.
Aye.
Arthur Perry.
Aye.
Michael O'Brien.
Aye.
Rachel Morella.
Aye.
Randy Brockway.
Aye.
Juliet Boyd.
Aye.
Mary Rose Mangia.
Aye.
Okay. And the motion is passed.
Thank you. Next, Dr. Sharma Lewis will give us update us on priorities and goals.
The leadership team and I always provide a monthly update on what we've accomplished towards our priorities and goals. So for goal area 1, for academic and professional excellence, in your packets and also available to the public is the research that Dr. Gannon and a few staff members have conducted in regards to what are the top 50 schools doing, top 10 schools doing as far as length of school day, time allotted for the core subjects of ELA and math, and then also what is their professional development framework, class length period for middle school, and also the number of encore classes per student. So that study is available in your packet, and we can take questions either now or later if you would like to present those to us. Also, we are in the initial stages of reviewing our current gifted programming and contacting local school districts to see what they're doing as our part of our research. The dynamic learning maps that Mrs. Shaw spoke about last month. The test administrators are getting prepared for those assessments, which will take place March 23rd through May 1st, and those are students who do not take, who have special needs, who do not take part. Objective 2, to prepare students to be college and career ready. We are redesigning this structure and courses of the summer school program as we shared with you at the last education committee meeting. We're also looking at developing a new process for hiring summer school staff, and a survey has been conducted as far as staff's availability for the time frame we're looking at. And we are also looking at revising and enhancing our current ELA and math curricula to meet Common Core expectations, and that's what we've been doing during our Monday professional development times. As a continuation of Goal Area 1, to hire, develop, and retain high-quality professionals, the Para Action Team, the PAT team that we heard about also at our last meeting, has implemented the pilot for the new professional evaluation framework. We've also modified some of the documents based on feedback from participants. And then the committee is working on how we are going to train and present the materials and the new forms and the process to certified staff. And we're looking at that meeting to be held on one of our Mondays in May. Dr. Gannon and I met with all principals to start talking about the staffing process, and we're hoping to bring you a draft of the staffing process for next year at the April meeting. Our occupational therapists and physical therapists are preparing for professional development for all of our paraprofessionals on understanding the sensory needs of our students. Our speech and language pathologists are refining the processes for RTI to support their students with communication skills. You heard a little bit about this earlier, but our technology department staff facilitated all the team training for the park assessments. And also, the technology department created documentation for park assessments is going forward for process and procedures for the future. Goal Area 2, Financial and Operational Excellence. For Objective 1, Mr. Sellers met with all the administrators to develop the 15-16 budget. He is incorporating a comparison formula that he reviewed with you at the February Finance Committee that talks about enrollment as well as inflation rates. He's also looking at the feasibility in the property tax rate program. We've presented that to you as well at the February board meeting, and getting some advice back on our attorney. And you've been updated throughout emails on the process of the communications that we've gotten. Monthly budget progress reports were sent out to all administrators and departments earlier this month, and I see that it's significantly under budget, which we are proud of. Objective 2, remediated previously, this is Mr. Tofano's department, looking at the wireless network performance in areas utilized for park testing. We've also met all the successful requirements of park testing. And you'll see later that we were able to conduct park testing for 750 students simultaneously on their one-on-one devices. We also identified park labs, so the elementary schools, as we shared with you at the Education Committee meeting, took their assessments in lab settings, and Hauser did them on one-to-one on their own devices. So as I shared earlier, or just previously, that 750 students, we conducted park testing on days 2 through 5. So our internet connections were working, as we just talked about. Dr. Casarda has completed his demographic study and enrollment projections, and will be presenting those at the April 8th Finance Committee meeting. Also, the architects, some of their work was delayed doing some of the boring for the parking lots and the roof. But I know Mr. Sellers is going to be presenting their review and their proposals for the parking lots, and their recommendation is that we can wait one more year on the blank park roof. And then also, we've completed a security camera analysis, and one company has provided us with those proposals, so we'll be also presenting those at the April 8th Finance Committee meeting. In your packets tonight also is Mr. Tofano completed the E-rate decision-making process for the federal guideline. Call 1 selected is assuming the local long distance and T1 circuits beginning on July 1st. Sprint will remain the district wireless provider. And then also for GASB, Objective 4, the requests for proposals are to be for our auditor are due tomorrow. And so we will be looking at those and decide what the process will be to interview our new auditors. And the dates for industrial appraisal to complete a reinventory of fixed assets has been completed. We'll provide an update at the April 8th Finance Committee meeting. And then also some post-employment benefits have been completed towards the actuarial study. And lastly, Hauser held its PTO town hall meeting last month, and parents were encouraged to ask any questions about Hauser programming and scheduling. And then Mrs. Shaw continues to have ongoing communications with Child and Family Connections for students who may need some summer evaluations for special ed services. And that is all I have.
Bhavna, could you speak to the summer school program a little bit? Give us a brief update on, I understand there's been some questionnaires have gone out to teachers, and some progress is being made on the curriculum.
And we're in the process of working on that, and as we talked about at the last education committee meeting, I think we're going to prepare a report. I don't have the information in front of me, but we'll prepare a report for the April 17th board meeting to provide you details of the survey and the curriculum updates and then the scheduling.
Okay.
Mike, can you give us a finance committee report?
Next finance committee meeting will be on April 8th, here at 7 o'clock at Hauser. Agenda will be finalized, so if there's any board members that would like to have any specific topics, please forward that to me. But as of tonight, we'll have the technology 101 laptop discussion, the CASARDA report, and the security camera proposal.
Education committee?
Yep, we met 2 weeks ago. We had a presentation on the sync solution tool that the CCAT team has been preparing, and that I think the staff is all using at this point for curriculum scope and sequence and content mappings. We had an overview of the park preparations, and I'm excited to hear that we survived it. But yeah, that's good news. And I'm really glad that our conversation here is about, getting through it and getting useful information out of it rather than, just not wanting to do it at all. So anyway, that was my little soapbox. Anyway, moving on. We talked about summer school, which we just discussed, and we'll be getting some more information on next month. And we had a update from Ms. Shaw about Special Services Department, and we discussed the after-school programs, which we had additional discussion tonight on.
And Art, you've had your last education committee meeting.
Yep. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Next, I guess just a quick update from the Working Policy Committee. Lavanya, you want to handle that?
Sure, we have not met because we are currently all caught up with our IASB policies, and tonight we'll be taking action to approve, second reading and final action to approve Press 87, which will make us all caught up.
Okay. Thank you. And then Don, Technology Steering Committee.
Yeah, we've been meeting on a monthly basis. There was a presentation provided regarding kind of what current topics are. Right now, we're not, so we have the one-to-one program component, but then also the another big topic is just the server infrastructure redesign.
Don, when is the next meeting?
The next meeting is currently scheduled for during spring break. We'll be sending out an email to reschedule that.
Okay. All righty, thank you. Bill, how's here tonight? Nope. Right then. Right, next. There are no questions on any of the financial statements or credit card or budget process statements. I would like to ask the Board of Education for approval. Let's see here. This one first. Would like to ask the Board of Education to approve the general invoices, Schedule A 755. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Rachel Morella.
Aye.
Randy Brockway.
Aye.
Juliette Boyd.
Aye.
Arthur Perry.
Aye.
Rich Regan.
Aye.
Mary Rose Mangia.
Aye.
And Michael O'Brien.
Aye.
Sorry. Motion has passed.
Next, I would, up is the approval of the Call One contract 1 year. And on your, everybody has in front of them an internal memo, which talks about what the purpose of the Call One contract is. The one is a 1-year contract, and the 1-year contract is for digital lines, ISDN, PRI services, the 1 year is the analog line, Plano Television Network POC, for 1 year. Don, do you want to explain it? I'm sure you can do a better job than I can.
These are just through the E-rate process, and obviously through anytime we're looking at any services that are coming up for renewal. If you're going through the E-rate process, there's a formalized bid process. 470 is posted, which is a document, essentially an RFP, showing what services are coming out of, are going to expire during the next fiscal year. So we have to select now our services for the next E-rate fiscal year. So we're selecting services on anything that will be expiring during fiscal year 16. So what we had expiring were our POTS lines, our Plano telephone service lines, our analog lines. There's no value in extending them out on longer-term contracts, and they're actually lines that we'll ultimately want to look at trying to get rid of if possible. So we're going to try to minimize those and cancel as many as we can over the next coming year. The other service is for PRI, which is our digital service, which handles the bulk of our incoming and outgoing calls. That is essentially a T1, which is a large circuit that consists of 24 phone lines, essentially. But that's a digital service. We have one PRI that services our existing phone system. So this is just a renewal of existing services. It went out for bid. Call One came in lower than AT&T on the bid for these services.
All right, and thank you. Does anybody have any questions? All right. The first motion up on the Call One contracts are service agreements. Is the 1-year agreement. I'm asking the Board of Education for approval on the Call One service agreement to provide telecommunication services for Riverside School District 96 effective July 2015. I have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Michael O'Brien.
Aye.
Arthur Perry.
Aye.
Rich Regan.
Aye.
Juliette Boyd.
Aye.
Randy Brockway.
Aye.
Rachel Morella.
Aye.
Mary Rose Mangia.
Aye.
Motion is passed.
And then the second Call One is the 3-year agreement, which is I'm asking the Board of Education for approval on the Call One service agreement to provide telecommunications for Riverside School District 96 effective July 1, 2015. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Randy Brockway.
Aye.
Michael O'Brien.
Aye.
Arthur Perry.
Aye.
Rich Regan.
Aye.
Juliette Boyd.
Aye.
Rachel Morella.
Aye.
Mary Rose Mangia.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Next is the parking lot repaving project and proposal. Thank you, David.
I have a visual aid to distribute photographs that depict the current conditions. As Dr. Sharma Lewis mentioned, we've done borings, and the Blythe Park roof is good for at least another year. So we can take that off of our financial planning for this coming summer. However, the borings on our parking lots have come out with disappointing results. And so tonight we're asking the board to authorize the architect to begin the next phase and that would be to develop plans and specifications to go out for bid. The board at any time has the ability to throw out all bids and cancel. This is not a commitment to actually do the project. This is a commitment to have the architect go the next step. And a proposal was forwarded by the architect. Most of the proposal is fairly boilerplate as far as an understanding between the Board of Education and the architect. Then there's some delineation of cost estimation. However, that is subject to the outcome of competitive bidding. I think, you know, I just like to share that in my own experience with repaving, and I was involved with a summer project of 8 acres at one point, and this is working out to be about 1.6 acres. That it's favorable strategy rather to have alternates. So when there's a description of full depth and strip and pave, the bid needs to be structured so that first of all, in the pictures, it shows a semi-trailer. The semi-trailer, I intentionally showed that in a picture because there are areas where we will need to go full depth. You have heavy equipment going over certain areas. So the architect needs to plan for that, and how alternates are structured within the bid will help give the board choices depending upon how the bid results come in. So my own experience was that they came in much more favorably than we'd anticipated, so we were able to afford full depth for a lot more square footage than we'd originally anticipated. So I think these numbers are a little high. At this point, we need the board's authority for the architect to do further work. But at the April 8th meeting, the Finance Committee meeting, I'm hoping that some work will be already in progress, and the architect can give you a much better idea of how they see the bid structured. So I'm being speculative when I'm describing how I anticipate the bid to be structured. But I'm assuming we would have unit pricing, we would have alternates, we would structure it so that the board can take advantage of a better scenario if we can afford more full depth reconstruction of our parking lots. But I think the pictures pretty much show what is the need. The cracking and the heaving and the you know, there are areas where the parking lots are very much failing, and we need to avoid tripping hazards and just the parking areas breaking apart, which is what they're doing in certain areas.
So David, you can effectively identify areas that are going to see heavier truck traffic.
Yes.
And other areas won't have risk of seeing that heavier truck traffic, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Just based on delivery patterns?
Right.
Okay.
Right. And so we'll undoubtedly have the full depth where the semis are anticipated to travel on the parking lots.
Mm-hmm.
And partial depth, you know, the strip and repave, which is much less costly, that might be workable. But we can't really make those decisions. We can't, you know, go the next step without the board's authority. The architect could have been here tonight. I said, well, I think I'm pretty confident that we have a clear picture of the need. Certainly the board could wait until the April 8th meeting. However, in discussion with the architect, they would like to get started.
Well,
so that we're able to get the bids on the street and get bids open and experience the competitiveness of being early in the contractor's scheduling of summer work.
Mm-hmm. It makes total sense. So we're just letting the architect identify the scope and put out the bid documents and then compile those and bring it back to us.
Right, and there will be interactions with the architect before the final bid specifications are published, but they can't really begin the process without the board's authority, which is what we're requesting tonight.
David, I have a question though. I mean, I reviewed the proposal, and it looks like it's a little bit more than they're, at least the architect's asking us to do a little bit more than that, because there's a provision in the contract here under the proposal for the compensation of the architect. It looks like defining the compensation of the architect for the entire project, and it just states that the client will compensate the architect for the scope of work described above based on a percentage of the construction cost. But it doesn't say what the percentage of the construction, what percentage. So
That's defined in the agreement between the architect firm and District 96, which has already been
so is that
processed.
Yes. Okay. So that is defined in our master agreement with
Right,
them.
right.
Okay.
It also, was that anything to do with the estimated A&E costs of 8.25%, or is that different?
Yes.
What does it have to do with the, you mean the master agreement?
Yeah, that master agreement is intended for use for whatever projects the architect is engaged to perform.
Right.
And the standard rates are scaled by dollar amount. The more the project cost ends up being, the lower the percentage. However, I'd have to review that agreement, but that was something that the board pretty much solidified with the architect firm.
Okay. I was just questioning what the 8.2, is that percent Art mentioned, is that in that master agreement? Or?
Yes.
Okay. I have another question. You mentioned unit cost and alternates a little bit earlier. Can you help me understand what that means relative to what we're doing tonight?
Well, the plans and specifications will provide clear direction for the bidders and have a level playing field for them to develop their bids.
Right.
So that every bidder is bidding the same scope of work. When the actual project gets underway, if upon digging into a certain portion of the parking lots, there's bad soils underneath, that's when a unit price is going to come into play.
Okay.
And it'll also involve a change order. So
Okay.
we don't want to have a change order that is negotiated, without any certainty. So at the inception of awarding the bid, we'll establish unit pricing so that in the event we need to process a change order, we're doing it based on the unit pricing that was
Right.
part of the bid award.
Okay.
So David, as you talked about alternates, you talked about for full depth and then regular depth. I'm wondering if we could ask the architect to look at an alternate that would provide for, say, a sustainable design solution for a portion of the parking lot. We're talking 1.6 acres total. I would guess that much of that's going to have to be full depth or regular asphalt paving. I think it would be worthy of the board to seek an alternate that might propose more of a sustainable environmental solution.
I became aware of your interest in that, and the architect advised me that that's something we could brainstorm. And certainly, I think there are some considerations that need to be part of that discussion. There are spaces where we need to run a snowplow, And, you know, we don't want to have a problem with that type of material so that it's, you know, it's easily plowed. If we were able to identify an area that would benefit from the aesthetic benefit that like pavers would provide, and you know, I think that's definitely something the architect can help us with. And but some brainstorming needs to come into play, and I asked him to be ready to clarify the cost differential. You know, sometimes it can be double the cost if you're going to go with pavers. You know, you have to look at that. But if the board has an interest in taking a certain space, making it much more aesthetically interesting, and demonstrating of the more ecological approach, then that's something that certainly the interest of the entire board is going to have to be expressed, and then we can move forward on that.
How would we identify a spot that would benefit aesthetically? Does the architect have any ideas?
Not yet. You know, I think
seem to
we
be-
just need to ask him to walk the site, give us your expertise, and advise where would be a good place from this, you know, for a potential exemplar of good ecological, pervious, you know, pavers. I understand that there are advantages. I just from a maintenance perspective, I also want to be sure that we can plow it in the winter. And then, of course, the board is going to have to consider that will be, there will be an upcharge for that type of an aesthetic. You know, it's a superior aesthetic, and it does have a benefit, definitely better drainage. So that's just something that needs to be brainstormed. We would rely on the architect's expertise.
Sure. I understand. I think there's also an opportunity for this. It's not just aesthetic, but it's environmentally sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be an opportunity to teach our students about stormwater.
I'd be interested in hearing an alternates for that in a proposal, if it's possible, if the architect can bring specs for that.
And I think the first step would be to maybe to find that aesthetic, the part that would aesthetically benefit.
I know that
Again,
architects love to do this kind of thing.
I hear what you're saying. I don't think we're talking aesthetics, but it's more than that. Just what parts of the project could be done that way? Obviously, functionally, full depth isn't going to allow it. Other things are not. So I don't want to get too caught up in, if that's what I'm hearing what you're saying, whether it's aesthetic or
Yeah.
ecological. Let's just figure out what the options are.
Yeah, I think it would just be wise, particularly the fact that Legat Architects, when they interviewed, they spoke so much about sustainable campus, school campuses and LEED certification, and the type of things that this could get into.
That's true. I'd be interested in hearing about it as well, because they did offer that in their presentation to us. Also, there's, in addition to that, so are they coming on April 8th at the Finance
Yes.
Committee meeting to talk to us? Okay, let's ask about it then, because I'd be interested as well as far as, is there less or more maintenance, cost,
Yeah.
everything? We don't know anything about it.
Right.
Let's have them
We don't know,
talk
so
about it, tell us about it.
Maybe it's way too expensive.
But the other thing I wanted to point out was that the construction phase is from June 8th to August 7th, and generally, the district, I think, leases, I don't know for payment or just that they have an agreement with the district for T-ball fields for the month of June. I don't know if there's, how that impacts that, probably not well, if we can work around that. So I just wanted to throw that out there as a consideration.
I will check on the T-ball. You know, I don't want those kids denied. I know when we did construction the year, and then we kind of put a kibosh, the T-ball schedule was moved over to the other parks and everything, but I will, it's on the agenda for April 8th, but I will reach out to the Little League president and ask him if they, there's a possibility that we're going to repave and see.
Okay.
Would that even necessarily impact them?
Right.
I mean, can we,
What were our
can they,
dates again, June?
June 8th through August 7th.
could they use the field even during the project? I don't know.
Well, they could, they just wouldn't have anywhere to park.
Right, and foul balls,
Right.
fans, right?
And it would smell
So
terrible.
David, can the contractor come up with a square footage adder for that type of application and maybe come up with some samples to bring to that next meeting?
Well, the architect, I think, can accomplish some level of brainstorming. I'll touch base with him tomorrow and
Mhm.
say, how clear can you make some options
Mhm.
for the board? And well, I don't really have a good answer to that question.
Okay.
I'm not sure how far he can get by April 8th,
Mhm.
considering that we're asking him to, there's a list of things that he's gonna have to do
Mhm.
that are probably more on a critical path to getting all of these, the entire project out for bid. But certainly we can move that discussion forward
Mhm.
on April 8th. And I think one of the things that needs to be determined is where would be an optimal location for this type of an application.
Sure.
All right. Anyway, I would like to ask the Board of Education for approval for the recommendation and proposal for pavement rehabilitation at Central Elementary and Hauser Junior High Schools, project number 21015 BD. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Juliette Boyd,
Aye.
Randy Brockway,
Aye.
Arthur Perry,
Aye.
Rich Regan,
Aye.
Rachel Morella,
Aye.
Mary Rose Mangia,
Aye.
Michael O'Brien.
Aye.
Okay. Motion is passed.
All right. I would like to now call the vote for the approval of the District 96 school calendar. Is everybody in agreement on that this
That's
time?
correct.
Yes.
And we'll move this onto the April agenda. Next is the motion for the Board of Education to approve a second reading and final adoption from IASB Press Issue 87, Policy 2:140, Communications to and from the Board, Policy 2:2140E, Guidance for Board Member Communications, including email use, Policy 4:10, Fiscal and Business Management, Policy 4:45, Insufficient Fund Checks and Debt Recovery, Policy 4:110, Transportation, Policy 4:120, Food Services, Policy 4:130, Free and Reduced Price Food Services, Policy 4:150, Facility Management and Building Programs, Policy 5:10, Equal Employment Opportunity and Minority Recruitment, Policy 5:130, Responsibilities Concerning Internal Information, Policy 5:185, Family and Medical Leave, Policy 5:220, Substitute Teachers, Policy 5:250, Leaves of Absence, Policy 6:20, School Year Calendar and Day, Policy 6:60, Curriculum Content, Policy 6:110, Programs for Students at Risk of Academic Failure and/or dropping out of school and graduation incentive programs, Policy 6:280, Grading and Promotion, Policy 6:300, Graduation Requirements, Policy 6:310, High School Credit for Non-District Experiences, Course Substitutions, Reentering Students, Policy 6:310, I'm sorry, I just read that. Policy 6:340, Student Testing and Assessment Program. Policy 7:50, School Admission and Student Transfers to and from non-district schools. Policy 7:100, Health, Eye, and Dental Examinations, Immunizations, and Exclusions of Students. Policy 7:220, Bus Conduct. Policy 7:270, Administering Medicines to Students, and Policy 8:20, community use of school facilities. May I have a motion that the Board of Education approve the policies that I've just read for second reading and final adoption?
So moved.
Second.
Michael O'Brien, excuse me. Arthur Perry.
Aye.
Rich Regan.
Aye.
Juliette Boyd.
Aye.
Randy Brockway.
Aye.
Rachel Morella.
Aye.
Mary Rose Mangia.
Aye.
And the motion is passed.
Mary Rose, I'd just like to ask, I think most of this was the press sort of boilerplate changes and so forth. Are there more policy things that were in the pipeline is there a status on some of the outstanding items and what the?
What we've been doing in order to get all these, take all of these policies that are triggered by changes in law in Springfield, that's the goal. I have a running list of things that we would either like to customize or have some tie into the CBA that we need to look at.
Okay.
And given the fact that we are gonna have a new board in April, or actually May, might be a time to form the new board and how we're gonna deal with customizing some of these.
Okay, so it sounds like we have a list. There might be new things coming to that list from board members. I expect some kind of effort to prioritize those maybe?
Yes.
And then a plan to start working through them.
As I mentioned, I mentioned a few meetings ago, I did go to the annual meeting of the III in November, and I actually sat in on the policy presentation or panel discussion to get some idea on how they recommend we handle policies. And they recommend sort of looking at sections at different times of the year and going through them as a board to talk about things we would like to customize. Some of these things that are on the list are things that have already come up. But I think we'll probably be discussing with the new board how we go ahead, and because it is a main responsibility of the board to develop policies and to develop and set direction via policy, and it's something we have to figure out how to do.
I'll just put a proposal out there, and I just thinking about it and get a sense. Is it something that list that you maybe have in process, something that we could put out on the April board packet, just so new board members, old board members can start thinking about that?
We actually have had that list out there. It was always, when we, in minutes to Bobna's and my meetings on the Working Policy Committee, it was at the end of the meeting, but we can get that out there again.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, but it's
It's a good idea, Art.
Yeah, it was a.
Keep it somewhere in the back of your mind, because some of these things take a long time to work through, and you don't want to lose track of that important process. Thanks.
No, and I'm told this was a particularly heavy session, a legislative session this year. They haven't had this many updates. So we finally just decided to work through them. All right, next. Action item, personnel report. I would like the Board of Education to approve the personnel report as follows. 2014-2015 FMLA leave requests, certified staff. Julie Dawkins and Jennifer Helfrich. The 2014-2015 appointments of, for the certified staff, Carol Murphy. 2014-2015 resignations for the certified staff, Kevin Cole, Jennifer Davies, Joanne Pishgoda, and Estelle Tarrant. And that's it for the personnel report. May I have a motion that the Board of Education approve the items on the personnel report for March 17th, 2015 that I just read?
So moved.
Second.
Excuse me, Randy Brockway.
Aye.
Rachel Morella.
Aye.
Michael O'Brien.
Aye.
Arthur Perry.
Aye.
Rich Regan.
Aye.
Juliette Boyd.
Aye.
And Mary Rose Mangia.
Aye.
And the motion is passed.
Finally, I would like the board to consider the approval of a separation agreement and general release between the superintendent and the board, under which the superintendent would resign effective June 30th, 2015, and receive all salary and benefits due to her through the date of her resignation. Is there a motion to approve the separation agreement and general release between the superintendent and Board of Education as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Juliette Boyd,
Aye.
Randy Brockway,
Aye.
Rachel Morella,
Aye.
Michael O'Brien,
Aye.
Arthur Perry,
Nay.
Rich Regan,
Aye.
Mayor Rose Mangia.
Aye.
The motion is passed.
All right, before adjourning, I would like to read a press release that will be delivered to the local press. And that press release is as follows. On March 17, 2015, by mutual agreement, the Board of Education of Riverside School District Number 96 and Superintendent Dr. Bob Nisharma-Lewis decided to end their contractual relationship effective June 30th, 2015, as a result of differences in direction that could not be reconciled. The Board of Education acknowledges Dr. Sharma-Lewis's vision, resilience, and ability to problem solve in challenging situations, and thanks her for her contribution to School District 96. In turn, Dr. Sharma-Lewis would like to thank and commend the past and present community members, parents, Board of Education, administration, staff, and students for maximizing the success of the students of District 96. And I also have one other statement that I would like to make on behalf of the Board of Education. The board's commitment to exceptional learning at District 96 is guiding our search for an experienced and well-credentialed interim superintendent. We will hire a highly qualified interim superintendent as soon as possible. We seek a smooth transition that will support great learning and strengthen academic achievement. District 96 has great students, great staff, great parents, and great community support. We are all dedicated to enriching the educational experience, outcomes, and sense of community for all stakeholders in the district. Thank you. May I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. And Juliette Boyd,
Aye.
Randy Brockway,
Aye.
Rachel Morella,
Aye.
Michael O'Brien,
Aye.
Art Perry,
Aye.
Rich Regan,
Aye.
Mayor Rose Mangia,
Aye.
and the motion is passed. Meeting is adjourned.